Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want you fired up about spiritual awakening. My guest today is Gina Casey, and we're talking about her book, The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. I know, such a great title. So you know what I'm going to tell you guys to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Gina. Thank you so much for joining me today on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
And I am so excited to have you on. I cannot wait to talk to you about your book, and I know that we are definitely going to have a good time. Now, as is the custom around here, we always give our authors an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps the one or two folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So in your own words, who would you say that you are?
Well, I'm a published author, clearly, as you had mentioned, The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. Also a spiritual healer. I help others along their ascension process. And in addition, I'm a proud mom of 4 beautiful children. I'm also an advocate for conscious parenting.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So a perfect guest for my show today, because I think that all the things that you're doing are definitely important, and they will cross the path of another in a positive way if we allow them to. So I can't wait to continue along this time with you. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that that was simply the next thing along your life path?
Always. I've always wanted to be an author ever since I was a little girl. I loved to write. I would write stories. I would actually pretend that I was an interview host as well. So that was also a great passion of mine as a child. But I write poetry. I have some poetry published as well way back a few years ago, but definitely something I always wanted. Yes, and I was also divinely guided to write this particular book, and I was guided every step of the way. So the timing of it was just perfect.
Absolutely. You know, and it's really funny. I always ask that question because it's nice to hear those people that say, oh, my goodness, I've always wanted to do this. Like, I am living everything that I've wanted to do. You know, it's like you had the dream at such a young age. I, too, have had visions of how I wanted my life to be, and it is amazing when I get to check off something and go, I am so living my dream. This is awesome. So
yes, I do the same.
And it's so fun. And I think many times people think that when you say that means that there must be this extravagance that goes with it. But for me, it's not about the extravagance. It's about walking in purpose. It's about doing that thing which I understand was the calling for my life. And in doing that, it brings me such happiness and joy. And then all the other things come along with it. You know, then comes the extravagance. You know, but it's the walking in purpose that comes first. So I love it. I love it. Now,
1,000,000%. So many people have that backwards.
You know, I was talking with another author one time, and we were talking about the blessings and talking about that extravagance in which we live. And I said, well, we should qualify that, because for me, sometimes that, Lord, I'm running, you know, a little bit behind. Could you give me like 4 green lights so I can just have smooth sailing there? And I get 4 green lights, and it's like,
yes.
thank you. I appreciate that, So it's walking in that blessing. So I definitely understand. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Amen.
I love it. Now, the title
Yes.
of your book, The Golden Butterfly, an Interactive Angelic Experience. I love the title. How did you come about that name?
Thank you. Well, actually, I came about that. The golden butterfly aspect of it was because my son had actually taken a picture of this beautiful golden butterfly in my mother's backyard. And that tied in to me as significance with the angels. At the time, Archangel Michael came into me as that was an aspect of him. That's how it came to me. So I kind of tied in the photograph that my son took with the angels, and that's how I came up with the golden butterfly. And the rest of the title, the Interactive Angelic Experience, came because I wanted it to be, I wanted it to be, and it is, it did come out to be, an interactive book where children can connect with their angels, but in a fun way where they're going to this particular section of the book called the Table of Images, and they're connecting two pictures that they like, and where those two pictures connect, there's a number, and that number leads them to their particular guidance for whatever topic that they're thinking of. So that's how I got the Interactive Angelic Experience part of the title. It's kind of a long answer, but it's the truth.
No, that's perfect. No, that's if that's what the answer is, and then that's what the answer is. That's really, I like that. So if I'm understanding correctly, then they can go back to the book at any given point of the day, at any given point in the year, and they could potentially come to a different answer each time, just depending on how they're so led.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
And there's also a section in the back of the book where they can record all of the experiences. And just as you said, we could have the same question in our mind, and at two totally different points along the way come up with two totally different answers simply because our situation has changed, our vibration has changed, or so on and so forth. So, you can have the same question, completely different guidance at different times. And then you can record it. Mm-hmm.
And that's nice. That's nice. That's something that I highly suggest to my client base is journaling is so incredibly important. I know that I personally journal. I suggest it for other people as well. And it's not always about those things that you want to kind of gripe about, but I use my journal for those prayer and praise moments, Lord, this is what I would love to happen. But whatever you decide will, of course, be okay, but I can't wait to see how this manifests. And then when it happens and I see the answer to prayer, I can see the date that I prayed for it and the date that it manifests. And it is just mind-blowing sometimes how quickly things happen. But we think that it isn't as quick as it is. But then there are some things that take quite some time, but the beauty that happens in between. So I like that you included that for them. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Angela, you must be in my house because I do the exact same thing, and I could have said exactly what you said word for word. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at my journal right now, my brown leather-bound journal, and I do exactly the same thing. I write down my manifestations, my prayers, and then I go back and I look and I say, wow, this one was answered. And then you get super excited, and then it gives you more hope to keep going along your journey. And some of them, as you go along, the quicker they manifest more quickly as you go further along the journey. And it's just so great to have that documented, as you said. I love my journals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that's right. I tell you, sometimes you are just sister spirits, and I think this is a case here, and it's like kids, we're doing the same thing, and so that should be. I hope that is like a aha moment, an epiphany, a bing moment for someone who's listening there, and it's like, should I do it? Absolutely. So you have two confirmations that you should definitely do that, because it really and truly is important. It makes all the difference in the world. Now, you talk about spiritual awakening or even spiritual alchemy. Now, that may be a term that folks are unfamiliar with. Can you explain what does that mean?
Okay. Well, my definition would be it's the process of transforming your life through the power of unconditional love. Okay? Now that starts as a realization that we all need, that all we need exists within us. Okay? It does not exist outside of us. And the route that leads us here is through developing a deep personal connection with the divine. So once we develop that connection, here we find our unconditional love for ourselves. And then once we find that love for ourselves, of course, then it's just natural that we would express that to others. Okay, so this is the love. This is the alchemy. This is the love that transforms. This is our authentic power. And we all have it. It's not something that's just given to special people. We, quote unquote, special people, because we're all special people, right? But it exists within all of us. And the only difference between one person who is using this power and the other person who may not have discovered this power is just that they haven't exercised their spiritual muscle. Just like, any other exercise. Okay, so if you want to build physical muscle, you go to the gym. If you want to build your spiritual muscle, you would meditate, you would pray, and you would do all sorts of things that would bring you to that point, to bring your spiritual gifts out, correct? So this power of alchemy can really transform, or does transform, and has transformed my entire life. And it's all about finding that unconditional love that exists only within ourselves.
I love that. The unconditional love part. And I know that someone right now is kind of twisting and turning, and they're going, unconditional love, eh? And it's like, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think as humans, we're always looking to put conditions on things. Because we're always trying to value or devalue something in some way, shape, or form to make something more or less than what it is. When if we look at it through love, if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, then everything just is. That it is beautiful in its own right because we're viewing it through this unconditional love. I love it. I love it.
Well, absolutely. Yes. Yes. And when you look at everything through this lens, your entire life can and will change.
That is a beautiful way.
It's a higher perspective.
Absolutely. And we do need to start doing that. We do need to elevate the way that we think about not only ourselves but others as well. If we love others as much as we love ourselves, then we would be in such a more amazing place. I love it. Well, what a great place for us to take our break. Now, before we go to commercial, I want to ask you, if you would please, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book again? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, so the title of the book is The Golden Butterfly, an Interactive Angelic Experience. It's available on Amazon and balboapress.com. You can find me on New Earth Angel 369 on Instagram. Also at Gina Casey at Facebook.
Alrighty, everyone, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Gina Casey, and we are talking about her book, The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. Now, I could just chit-chat with you all day because it sounds like we have a lot of things in common, but I want to really focus on your book now and kind of drill down a little bit more because I know our listeners definitely want to know more about this book. But I love it when I have a guest on that we're kind of like on the same wavelength there. I love that. So I want to ask you about your first realization, if you will. When you realize that you have the ability to extend, I'm going to say, beyond your five senses. So many people are afraid of the gifts and talents that they have been given, or they don't know how to talk about it with friends or family, that, you know, there's no safe place there for them to discuss it. So when did you first realize it, and how did conversating about it happen for you?
Well, Dr. Angela, as you said, I started out as one of those people. I was so afraid. Well, let me actually rewind, because as a child, it was just natural for me, and I was not afraid whatsoever. Because, you know, as a child, everything just comes naturally to you, and you don't really care what other people think or feel about it. You just do what comes natural to you, and you're loving it, and that's all that matters. But then, I didn't exactly have the environment that was supportive of that. So unfortunately, I had kind of tucked those gifts away for a long time. So they were lost for years, just out in the ether somewhere until I was an adult. And then I felt like I was living someone else's life. Like I woke up one day, okay, how did I get here? This isn't me. I know that there's more out there. I know that. And I know this isn't authentically me. So I started to remember. Okay. And at this time, I began working with the angels, which did bring about some of my abilities that I had lost along the way. And this brought me back in touch with my own intuition and I like to call clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. And then I started putting them into practice. I was doing angel readings, and I took lots of classes, and I just dove in as much as I could once I started remembering. Because it's not about learning, right? It's about remembering, because they were always there. It was just a process of remembering that they had always been there. And with every step that I took in alignment with that, it just, more gifts were revealed. And with, you made yourself, wow, really? I can do this? I had no idea. I can talk to deceased loved ones. I had no idea. I can talk to the angels. Yes, you can. You just have to remember that you can. And, once you remember that and you start getting back in touch with your own intuition, that's when it starts to flow,
And the talking to angels, I have come into contact with so many different people of different ethnicities who all believe that, especially little babies, when they're kind of doing that little staring off in the corner, having a conversation, that the elders will say, oh, yeah, they're talking to the angels. They're having a conversation with others. And we are not frightened by that idea at all because it's a baby. But it seems like the moment that an adult says, I was talking to the angels, they're ready to kind of sit you off in the corner by yourself.
Right.
and say, oh, well, that's odd, but it is such a beautiful thing to remember that we are spirit that can connect back to
Absolutely
the Creator, that can connect to spirit. So that is such a beautiful reminder. Remember who you are. I like that. I think that.
Remember who you are. Yes. Love that.
Who you are. It's like, oh my goodness. And I think especially for we as women, we could really take that and really make it our own, because we have been gifted this beautiful intuition that I think that we try to sidestep so much because we're trying to be something that we're not. But if that is the talent that we have been given, the power to discern and to be intuitive and to be able to connect with others, then use that. That's beautiful. Don't try to turn that down. Instead, tap into that more. So I love that you are reminding us to remember who we are. And I know that some of my fellow multicultural folks out there, you guys are nodding your head going, yep, remember who you are. So I love it. I love it. Now,
I love it too.
Can you describe how your life was transformed? Now, I know you can't give away, all the secrets. You do have to buy the book. I know you guys know I'm going to say that. Buy the book. But can you describe how your life has been transformed by the power of alchemy?
Well, it kind of just segues into exactly what you were saying, where we don't realize we have these powers, and then we do as a child, and then we're looked at as an adult, and it's perfectly natural as a child, and then as an adult, we're looked at like, okay, let's put this woman in a straitjacket. Some people who don't understand the concept, but once you really start to embrace that within yourself, then you stop caring about what other people think, and you say, no, this is my power. And yes, I am going to use this, and it's going to transform everything. Okay, I am the proverbial phoenix rising from the ashes. I don't have enough time for 10 interviews to go over all that, but I can tell you story after story if you have me on again. But I went from, basically, I went from this seemingly powerless, I would say girl, because I wouldn't even say woman, because that's how I felt. I felt like this powerless little girl until I embraced this power that we all have within us. I embraced it within myself, and I started to put the process of what I learned into action in my life. It was no longer just a theory. I was putting it into practice, and that's a major, major key. So many people, they study all of these spiritual concepts, and that's as far as it goes. And it looks great on paper. They can have good conversations about it, but unless we actually put it into practice in our daily lives, that's as far as it will go. It will end right there. But I can tell you, Dr. Angela, I went from having zero confidence to just this force field to be reckoned with. I feel like sometimes I'm just a conduit. I feel like I'm a conduit for truth, which is something that I've always known. I may not have had the words for it, but now that I'm in this spot, a conduit for truth, a divine channel. And talk about progress. Okay, talk about progress. Like, to go back earlier with the journaling, I remember writing so many wishes, hopes, dreams, because maybe I didn't have the word for it at the time of intention. But whatever the word was, I then put them into practice. I put these concepts into practice, And then I realized, wow, look how far I have come. It is incredible, incredible. Once you find this unconditional love that comes from God to you and out to others. It's amazing. It's amazing how it transforms your life. I don't have enough time to give 1,000 examples. I can maybe give one if you want an example.
Sure.
I mean, it transformed my entire family, I'll tell you that. When I transform myself, it ripples out. It ripples out into your whole entire sphere. It ripples out to my family. It ripples out to the world. Your energy expands throughout the entire universe. And I know that may sound like a tough concept for some people to grasp, but it truly is what I've learned through this entire process. So I went from feeling powerless to truly owning my power. And that is something that I had always wished for, but honestly was not sure that I could exactly achieve. And I have, and I am. And of course, we're always in process. Don't get me wrong. I'm far from perfect.
Right. But, no, of course. But you're saying such powerful things, because for so many women, they are still trying to heal the wounded girl. You know, they're still that little girl version of them, and they're not even sure where to start. So the fact that you're saying that you have grown from someone who had, you know, a little wiggle room and who could be better to a much better version of yourself, that gives them hope, you know. And like you said, we're always constantly evolving, trying to be the best version of ourselves. And ladies, I think we know that. Every morning that you get up, it's like, okay, back at it. Let's be amazing today. Let's be awesome.
That's right.
Go to sleep, repeat, and try to be your best self that you can possibly be. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't, but it's okay that if I'm hearing what you're saying, because of that unconditional love, we are able to dust ourselves up, get back up, and continue on and say, but I still have an opportunity. There's still a chance for me to get this right. I love it. I love it. No, I think that was a perfect answer. Now, within kind of that same vein of a spiritual awakening and figuring out who we are and or who we wish to be as well, in your opinion, what is the most important aspect of a spiritual awakening?
Oh, well, the most important, in my opinion, is self-love. Self-love, self-love, self-love. Because without the self-love, we can't love anyone else effectively. You know, everyone loves to the extent that they know how to. Many of us, like myself, were never taught that. Never mind taught that. We were never given that. We didn't even have the words self-love. You know, I mean, I didn't even know the word until I started on my own spiritual journey. To me, I had always thought self-love was equated to selfish, but they're two totally different things. Now, selfish is when we all know the definition of selfish, right? But self-love could not be further from selfish. It's absolutely necessary, and we are not taught this. We are not shown this in day-to-day society, but that is, to me, the most important aspect of a spiritual awakening. And, you know, also what goes along with this concept is connecting to our heart space. Now, so many of us are connected solely to our minds. You know, our logical brains are going all day long, and this is where we're making our decisions from, and we have forgotten about our hearts, and that is where all of the female intuition comes from. That's the goddess aspect of ourselves. Okay, now we all have masculine and feminine within ourselves, no matter what gender we are. Okay, so we have sacred qualities of divine feminine, and we have sacred qualities of divine masculine. But really, society has all but forgotten at this point the sacred qualities of the divine feminine, and those exist in the heart space. And that's where all those beautiful qualities come from: creativity, empathy, compassion, and all of these artistic abilities. It's something that one in balance can be a beautiful thing. We can't have, one without the other. We really can't have solely feminine qualities and solely masculine, but it's when they're in balance and it creates that beautiful unity. I know I went a little off path there, but I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you did. I love that, because as you were talking, and I said, I think that in Western culture, it's as though we don't have words to express the beauty of that, and a lot of other cultures do have words that are a little bit more expressive of what you're saying. So for some folks, it is going to be a little hard to understand, but I think once they get the concept, and you're doing a great job of explaining it, I think it really opens it up to the possibility of so much more. When you were talking about the female and the masculine, I said, you think about the yin and the yang, you think about the positive and the negative. We use good and bad, but a lot of older cultures use positive and negative, the same way that we have to have a positive and a negative in a battery. Or I'm thinking about, the sun and the moon. We have to have both in order for there to be that balance. So I think you're really piquing the interest of some folks out there, and they're going, I never thought.
I hope so.
So absolutely, I think that is awesome. Well, it is time for us to take another short break, but I definitely want to give you an opportunity, if you will, remind everyone title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure. Okay. Well, the book is The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. It's available on Amazon and balboapress.com. That's BALBOA press.com. You can find me at New Earth Angel 369 on Instagram, or at Gina Casey on Facebook.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. Just a reminder that my guest today is Gina Casey, and we are talking about her book, The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. Now, I tell you, time flies when you're having a good time, and I have had a great time talking to you today. And I can tell because we're already at the end almost of our show. So I want to ask you one question that I think is pretty important, and please take as much time as you need to answer it. And that is, who, what, how, that type of question. Is God to you, for you, around you? How do you answer that question, the concept of who is God?
To me, God is the greatest love story ever told. God is me. God is you. We are all aspects of God. God is nature. God is Goddess, the female aspect of God that we were talking about earlier. God is life itself. There is no separation. Every cell in your body, every hair on your head, every breath that you breathe. I actually heard somewhere, I can't recall exactly where at this time, but that every breath is actually an expression of God's name. That if we were to try to pronounce her name, that it's unpronounceable in human terms, and that every breath that we take is an expression of God. So that's why conscious breath is actually the breath of God. So when we're consciously breathing in, out, and we're letting it flow through our heart space, and we're breathing in God. We're breathing in God. God is not some old man sitting out there up in the clouds somewhere. He is within each and every one of us. When we are all aspects of God, and we're all here to glorify God as individual expressions of the same. I know that may sound like a foreign concept to some people because it's not a traditional definition that many are taught in religion. But God to me is not religion. It's not a rule. God is within me. I am God. You're God. We're all God. It's a very personal experience. And God wants us to have this personal relationship with Him, her. It's a personal relationship. It's God is all. To me, I can go on and on with a million different definitions of God, but that is the best way that I know how to describe it in words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally and completely understand what you're talking about. And for so many people, you're right. This concept is a foreign concept for them. But if we think about it for the person who's trying to make the connection and go, what are they talking about, and how does this, where in the Bible does it say that? So if we're trying to make that connection, and we know that God breathes the breath of life into Adam's nostrils, that breath, that essence of who God is, that's that connection of when we are trying to center ourselves, when we are trying to communicate with God and words aren't necessary and we simply breathe, then it is that connection that brings us back. We are honoring that essence of breath that has been given to us by trying to just simply praise Him in our breathing. So I understand what you're saying, and I know when I was first introduced to that concept, I was like, mind blown that, that emoji with the, and I went,
yes,
that is
me
so
too.
beautiful. I thought that was just so wonderful that we carry that with us everywhere we go. So that is another way for the human mind to be able to wrap our heads around the concept of God is ever with us, that He's ever present with us. Well, how? I don't understand, but it's like you're breathing,
right.
God's right there. So it's like that is so beautiful. But I love that, and for so many people, the name that you call God, if you refer to Him as Elohim, or if you've heard people say, Yahweh, all of that is along that same vein, and definitely take some time to Google that and research it. But it is such a beautiful way that we honor the Creator in all that we do in that. You know what? You are just bringing up stuff for people to do, and I think that is a wonderful thing. It's like homework. It's like, okay, we're talking about this, we're talking about that. Wait a minute.
Dr. Angela, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, am I giving them homework?
Right.
We're truly on the same wavelength.
So we're it's the therapist in me that says, homework. So the next time we talk, I want to know, what did you journal? How did it make you feel? And how did you grow from the last time I've spoken with you? So this was an amazing thing. But I think it's good, and especially now that we're still dealing with COVID, we should utilize this time that we have when we're not dealing with the hustle and bustle to really better ourselves, to grow in this experience and to use this as a positive time and some positive reflection as opposed to only concentrating on those negatives, on the things that we can't do, but instead on the things that we can do. So Amen. I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I so enjoyed my time with you, and I think this is a beautiful note to wrap my time up with you, and I couldn't have thought of a more beautiful way to give people something to contemplate for the rest of their day. Gina Casey, thank you so much for spending time with us here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. But before I let you go, can you remind everyone one more time the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Yes. And before I do that, I'm truly grateful. This is such a beautiful experience. The book is The Golden Butterfly, an interactive angelic experience. It's available on Amazon and BalboaPress.com. You can follow me at New Earth Angel 369 on Instagram or Gina Casey on Facebook.
I love it. Gina Casey, thank you again for being a guest on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you so much.
And listeners, thank you. God bless you as well. Listeners, thank you for spending some time with us here this morning as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you to be your best today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.